Hello again. I'm going to continue where we left off from the last video, discussing the astro-mythological. In that last video, we got up to the 3 of clubs, so in this video, I'm going to start with the 4 of clubs. And this deck is also known as the Grand Jeu, which stands for large deck of Mademoiselle Lenormand. And if we zoom in here a little bit, you can see this is the 4 of clubs. The constellation that this is supposed to represent is Cerberus, excuse me, the three-headed dog, and that interpretation of that is to withhold your friendship. So it's not a good time to make new friends. The letter B up here, this is the first card that also has a geomantic image, but the letter B stands for sensitivity, reservation, and emotion. And this particular geomantic symbol, it's kind of a U shape of 7 stars, and it's named Tristitia. Anyway, it stands for sadness, sorrow, and melancholy. So you get an idea this is not a great card. And the main image in this card is an alchemist observing the matter in his container here dissolving, and the interpretation of this is that you're so entranced that you're with your passions that it's made you lose touch with reality. If you're a male, it represents a sincere and true love, but if you're a female, it's a mad passion that risks being a flash in the pan. But in either case, really, it's kind of being a total infatuation, so kind of watch yourself. Down here at the bottom left is a woman sitting at a table and she's writing, and the interpretation of that is that you're working to consolidate your reputation, and it could definitely have something to do with writing or other forms of communication, and to keep those lines of communication open and strong. And once again, if you are consistent in making those efforts, you will be rewarded. Over on the bottom right hand side is a gentleman being, or a woman being visited by a gentleman. This is usually like, it's not just a young woman. This is like somebody looking for a benefactor or somebody to support them in the arts. The actual French word that was used to describe the woman is a grisette, which in my translation it says that's like a young woman, working woman who's individualistic and artistic, but usually very poor. And another word, like in English, a lot of times they'll use the word bohemian to describe such a person. And the interpretation is that your feelings are unreasonable and exaggerated. You find yourself in a completely false reality, and it's putting yourself into a weak position. Be objective, and you can't force fidelity. So basically, in a way, it's kind of like associating with, like to put it in perspective in these times, it would be like a mixing of classes, which was really frowned upon at that time, and that you were basically out of your being outclassed, and to watch out for that. Excuse me. Now, the overall interpretation of the card is that it represents a loss of money or other objects of any kind. It can also recommend to be very cautious in any business that you're transacting at this time, as you may be on the lesser end of the bargain. And it also means that you could be acting to excess, and that doing so will have negative effects. You know how to appreciate your pleasures and new successes from rewards of your prior work, but don't change your behavior becoming too snobby or proud of your work, and starting to when you go beyond your means. Don't allow yourself to be influenced by greed. Okay, so that is the... Oh, I forgot to go over the flowers. The flowers on this card are gillyflower, and there's actually 2 of them on here, and that are actually different types of flowers, and cocoa, like the cocoa bean tree. The 2 types of gillyflower, let's see, I looked these up, and the 2 that they actually represent is a wallflower, and where's the other one? Stalks. So stalks, their Latin name is Metholia incana, and the wallflower is Erysimum cherie. So they're actually 2 completely different flowers, but in the common parlance of French, they're both called gillyflowers. Okay, and the interpretation of that is, although your love for your companion is not returned in the same fashion, be patient, and time will offer a reason. So, kind of a one-sided love affair, and you may not know why at this time, but eventually you will find out what's going on. Okay. Next is the 5 of clubs. And on this image, make sure we have the constellation, which is actually no longer recognized as an actual constellation. Back in the 1800s, it was called George's Harp, and it's near Taurus, and the interpretation is love with a capital L. And also on this card is one of the few that has a planet designation inside of it, and this planet is marked as Mars. And the T represents emotion, imagination, and duality. And here in the center for the image, we have Venus and Paris. Well, excuse me. This is Paris abducting Helen, but Venus comes in because apparently Paris was being protected by Venus in order to be able to carry out this abduction. And the interpretation is that you risk becoming the victim of an abusive trust following contact with disreputable people. Your property or your happiness is under threat, but it could also just represent that you're coming under the effects of a broken heart or some other misrepresentation. Like if this was a tarot card, I would sort of associate it with the 3 of Swords. Down here on the bottom left, is Helen in front of a book, and she's imploring the gods. The interpretation is that to be true to your feelings, and that is the whole question. Don't confuse love, desire, and tenderness, or even friendship. Personal introspection is indispensable to finding yourself. So basically, to be sure of your feelings and don't confuse love with friendship. The bottom right is Agamemnon walking in discussion with Menelaus. And the interpretation on that is that you currently have some profound feelings of vengeance. It would be best to calm down in order to move on. Inner peace would be welcome at this point. Now the flowers on this isn't interesting. This is the first time we've run into this, and I ran into it in several of the cards, where there actually isn't an identification given for the flower. It just says pistils, so which is one of the parts of a flower. And it also lists stamens, so it's pistils and stamens, and the only real flower in here that's listed is, I believe it's this one in the middle, which is linden or lime tree. That's not the citrus lime tree. It's a tree that's indigenous, I think, to Europe, and it's very popular in Great Britain, and it's just called a lime tree, and we call them a linden tree here in the US. Now the overall interpretation of this card is, it says, let's see, we've got in abducting Helen, Paris is committing an act of treason. Pay attention to that you are not being betrayed or violated personally or professionally. You must remain as absolutely vigilant as possible. Oh, and I keep forgetting to mention, this is part of the Trojan War group, by the way, just in case you didn't figure that out with Paris and Helen. Okay, for the final card in this video, we're going to go for the Six of Clubs. And this is also a Trojan War card. And it also has a planet in its constellation, and I'll have to look at it closely. And I cannot tell which planet that is. It's not marked. So maybe that's not a planet. Sorry. Usually these little stars that are clear, oh, they have to be yellow to be a planet, sorry. Okay. So the constellation is Arcturus. It's also called Boots. And it often represents solitude and loneliness. And the letter is H, stands for ambition, determination, and opportunities. This is the second card with a geomantic designation in it, and that particular one is called where are you? And I think it's actually on the next page in my other reference book that I've got that lists all the geomantic. There it is. It's called Cauda Draconis, which is the tail of the dragon, and that stands for exiting, getting out, or lowering of a situation. In the main picture is Paris and Menelaus on the verge of singular combat, and there's also two sheep back here that are about to be sacrificed. The interpretation is, do not bow your head to protest injustice. Take time to prepare your counterattack and let your opponent go on the offensive. In this way, you can expect reconciliation. So basically, don't give up in a fight. Down here on the bottom left, this is Achilles playing the lyre, and the interpretation is that you may feel alone or sad or isolated. Don't remain in this state, otherwise you may run yourself into a deep depression. Make sure to change your thoughts, get with your friends, and pay attention to your health. So basically it's saying, don't sit here on your laurels, get out there and do something fun, preferably with other people. The bottom right is Ulysses and Diomedes stealing the palladium from the city of Troy. And that interpretation is that you're going to overcome all your obstacles. Your energy is so great that it will completely crush any opponents that you have, and you will have everything that you need in order to reach your goals. So that's a very positive side of the card. Now for the floral arrangement on this card, we have only 2 of the flowers are identified. One is geranium and the other one is a yew. And this is not the really florally kind of geraniums. These are the can't remember the name of it, like what we have here in the US that we call a geranium, but it's really a plurigonum or something like that. These are more like the wild scented leaf type geraniums. And the actual Latin name is Geranium andraci, and a yew is Tassix baccata. We also call this type of geranium crane's bell, if that helps. And the interpretation of that is to stop doubting your abilities, be more positive, and you will start winning. It's important to have self-confidence. So for the overall interpretation of the card, we have, like Paris and Menelaus, you must face the situation that requires clarification. Don't succumb to anger or violence, but instead remain calm and serene. This will benefit you in settling this affair and also for any future consequences. Okay, I think that covers it for this video, and thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful, and thanks for watching.